Well, good morning, everyone. This is Trooper RV with Greta and Liberty. We've been here at the Beaver Creek campground for about 2 nights now, and I thought I'd show you our setup. Both Mary and I were inspired by YouTube RVers who do full-time RVing, and we congratulate them on their courage to get out and do what they do, and a lot of them make great videos. Particularly like Slim Potato Head, Venture Forward, I believe, and Fate Unbound. They all do good videos, and we're inspired to look into RVs now that we're retired. However, for us, full-time RVing isn't particularly suited. I'm a professional woodworker, and I need access to my bandsaws and table saws, so we have a home, our home base. And the choice was, do we want to spend a small fortune in a Class C, or do we want to look for something that we don't mind having parked for months out of the year in our garage or in the driveway and not feel too bad about having all that money standing still? So we decided on a used shuttle bus, which we call Trooper because it has about 200,000 miles, just under 200,000 miles. And it must be a Trooper because it's doing pretty well. We've had it from Washington State to Pennsylvania and all around Washington State camping. So we'll put nearly 20,000 miles on it already, and no real problems. One of the things now, buying a transit bus from a city, I guess, has its risks, but along with the risk comes a fairly well documented history of its maintenance, and it shows you everything they've done to it. And this particular unit had an engine replaced at about 100,000 miles. It had injectors replaced, and so it has a lot of the typical problems you'd encounter with a high mileage vehicle already taken care of. So our idea was to get into camping with all the conveniences of home for under $10,000. And this is the setup we chose to do that. Now, as you see, we have a HQST solar system set up. It's portable. It's a briefcase solar system, and I did a brief video on it, and we're very happy with it. And the reason we decided to go with a portable solar system is because we like the shade, and to have a permanently mounted solar system on the vehicle means you either have to park it in the sun all the time or be happy with generating less power. With this system, we find the sun, hook it up to our power station, which is the Blue Eddy 2400. I think it's the EB240, and together the EB240 can be fully charged by the solar system, and the EB240 powers all of the appliances that we bring with us to extend our stay, such as refrigeration, charges our charges the batteries of our cell phones and computers. We also opted for a canopy, which we put to good use. Here it's, I'd say, upper 70s in the sun. So I'm a shade person, so this canopy fits the bill for that little bit of comfort. Of course, the lounge chairs, which we have to tie to the back cargo platform that I made for the van, and propane tank, which is upside down at the moment because I just filled smaller propane bottles that we use for the portable stove. So the van itself cost $5,500. I did need to put new tie-in rods and have an alignment performed on the van after we bought it, but I think that was about $300. Other than that repair, just a good washing and waxing took the decal shadows off and brought the paint somewhat back to life. But it's a 2008 E450 6-liter diesel, and what you see is the wear and tear of a vehicle of that age and mileage. Alright, because we wanted to keep our build under $10,000 including the vehicle, the idea was to use as much of the installed equipment as it came with and repurpose what we could and remove as little else, and in that way keep our costs down as far as gutting the whole thing, insulating the whole thing, redoing floors, redoing the ceiling. We left it pretty much as we bought it. The floor, because this was a vehicle intended for public transportation, I think they had to meet certain safety or other requirements, and the floor throughout the van is sheet metal with plywood, 3/4 inch plywood, and covered with a vinyl fabric. So the fact that there's sheet metal flooring gives a lot of support and strength to anything that needs to be through bolted, but generally we stayed with whatever holes were made in the manufacturing process to through bolt whatever items needed to be through bolted. We used the same through holes, so we didn't add any new holes to the rig. We just tried to use those that were already there. One thing we had to install was this co-pilot seat, which is one half of the bench seats cut down for one, and it has a flip up seat portion, which I'll try to demonstrate. Alright, coming on through. Let me see if you can see this. We had a restaurant when we were younger. Oh, you guys, be nice. We had a restaurant when we were younger, and I kept some of the equipment we had from the restaurant, and what you're looking at are food storage containers. They're insulated and they're on wheels, and I just mounted them, and we're using those containers as our pantry and storage for food and other items we need to bring along. We just recently purchased an E-Kooler, 12 volt, 40 quart electric cooler from Costco. The cost of the E-Kooler was $170. And this is our first trip with the E-Kooler. Prior to that, everything we brought with us was either freeze-dried, canned, or in some other way non-perishable, so we didn't need a cooler. These water tanks, which we're using as water tanks, were actually old soda canisters, and I've just converted them to a water system where it's hooked up to a hand pump water spigot, and I like that because it really conserves. You only get the water you need, because when you're not pumping, there's nothing flowing. So these 3 5-gallon water canisters would last us. Well, we just changed one out and we've been gone over a week, so 5 gallons gets us through the normal water requirements pretty nicely. I do have another water canister here, actually 2, and they're used for cleaning up dishes, showers. Unfortunately, the shower system I rigged up, which operates under an air pump to pressurize the canister, which forces water through a hose and to a spray nozzle. But the seals are leaking, so I wasn't able to pressurize it and use the shower as intended. This is our heating system. It's a Chinese diesel heater, and we did a little winter camping this year, and it really is, I like it. No problem so far. It runs off 12 volt. The glow plugs, the fan, all run off. We have a second Blue Eddy because the bigger Blue Eddy is now being solar charged. So we have everything plugged in. The cooler, and if we needed the heating system, it would plug into the 500 Blue Eddy, 500 watt Blue Eddy. So this heating system, diesel heat, works great. One thing we particularly like about this van is the amount of windows for not only viewing out, but they open, so the ventilation, we really don't need air conditioning, although it has an air conditioning unit. Don't need it. This, by opening up, and like I said, I'm a shade person, so I try to find the shade everywhere we go, and the breeze, it keeps everything comfortable. This kitchen table is a restaurant, stainless steel restaurant prep table. I just cut a hole in it to mount a sink, and on the other side is our portable propane burner. And the reason we went with portable is, again, we can move it outside and do whatever cooking we want to do outside when the weather's cooperative. So that's works pretty well. We're happy with that. The reason we went with a restaurant style table is so we have clearance underneath, and this is where the dogs, Liberty and Greta, they sleep underneath the kitchen table, so we all get along as far as space is concerned. The back, we had to rip out the seats in order to put 2 twin beds, and if we need the extra sleeping space, we could put a board between it and make one huge sleeping area back here. Now this seat, these are the seats that were used in the van for public transportation, and they're all in good shape. This is the only seat in its original placement. All the other seats were removed or repurposed. This kitchen table just plugs into or attaches to the cargo rail system that is part of the van, or the one of the features of the transportation requirement to have tie down areas, and I use it to bolt our kitchen table to, and it's on a little flip up leg so the whole thing can be removed if I need to. This seat, if Mary needs a little extra leg room, will fold down. Whoop. And if you're only using one hand, you crash it into the table. But that folds down, and it actually would fold up as well, up against the windows. So that is a nice feature we kept. That was part of the vehicle itself. And this seat, the opposing seat on the dinette, is again the van seat. I just flipped it 180 degrees, so we have seating for 4, but in reality we only need it for 2. Okay, let's see. The tie downs, the T-track we left in, and they've been useful. We have clamps or little I don't know what you call them, latches that go into these tie down or the T-track. They're removable. They came with the van, and we could put them in anywhere there's a T-track and hang stuff or use them however way we want. As you see, we have different things that hang in because of and used the T-track. It's also, T-track is used here, and this keeps the coolers and the water tanks firmly in place, so when we're driving they're not bouncing all over the cab. I installed a wire mesh. It's just a cattle fence, but I installed it in the back between the grab rails and posts, and it's a catch-all for everything really. So that's just a utilitarian modification. The front, a little bit of storage in the front. We keep whatever first aid and other items ready or hidden away in there, so that is handy in that regard. Let's see, backing up, a nice roof vent that is really an escape hatch, so it completely flops out of the way, or you can keep it open while you're camping or even driving to get more airflow. The one thing we did remove, although we wanted to use it, was the wheelchair lift. We used it a couple times as a flop down table, a makeshift picnic table, and we liked it that way, but it just, we didn't use it that often, and it was just getting too much in the way. It took up too much space. So we left the double doors, but removed the wheelchair lift, and now it's just a good opening for ventilation or pass through from kitchen to outside. So it's still a convenient feature having the double doors. All the windows, as you see, there's 4 awning windows. They prop open, you get good ventilation through those windows. The van came with one storage box under mounted, and I built a second storage box to carry the rugs, outdoor rugs, and the solar panel. Now would I do a homemade box a second time? Probably not, because by the time you buy the wood, the fiberglass mat, the epoxy, the hinges, stainless steel hinges, fittings, and not counting the labor, but you have something that's homemade but costs you darn near as much as buying off the shelf. So this cost me about $160 to build. Something off the shelf from like Tractor Supply, I think was around $300. So I'd probably go with a Tractor Supply box if I want to add another one. When I removed the wheelchair lift, I installed, let's see if I can, there it is. I installed a number of 12-volt receptacles, and that's now, when we're driving down the highway, everything's plugged into the van's electrical system through these 12-volt receptacles. And when we're not, we're camping, everything that we need running gets plugged into a power pack. Okay, it's about just a little after 11 o'clock in the morning in July 2020, and as you can see, our van's now in the shade, but our solar panel is still nicely in the sun, charging the 2400 Blue Eddy. And just to give you an idea on what we're producing, let me see if I can get down to get this. We're pumping in about 84 watts. And I would say it's mostly sunny. There might be a little bit of haze, but it's pretty much direct sun. Now a little bit about this campsite. This is the Beaver Creek Campground, located in the Okanogan National Forest, about 10 miles from Twisp, Washington, or about 10 miles from Winthrop, Washington. Getting here with the van was a bit of a white knuckler. Not so much because it was scary white knuckles, it was because the road, it's about 10 miles of nothing but ruts and washboard dirt road, very narrow at spots. So if there was oncoming traffic, which we didn't encounter, thankfully, one of us would have to back up a long way to a turnout area in order for the other to pass, because there's at spots there's no room for a second vehicle on either side. So in that respect, it was a little bit of a white knuckler. But when we got here, I mean, there's no one here right now, but when we got here, there was a Class A already parked at the lower end. So it's doable by, you know, although I don't see how a Class A would navigate the dirt roads, but they did. So I think it's doable by an experienced and talented Class A driver. But the campground is beautiful. No one's here right now. Pretty much, I don't know how many campsites. There must be at least half a dozen or more campsites. It is bear country. They have a lot of warnings about bears being in the area. So that's one of the things we need to be conscious of and sort of worry about. But other than that, there's the setup, canopy, power station, van, outside lounge area, all the comforts of home for under $10,000.
So we're just coming down now from Beaver Creek Campground between Swift and Winthrop. It was worth the trip. It was beautiful, peaceful, quiet, and it looks like a lot of trailers came up now being a weekend, so we're leaving at a good time. Never saw a bear, but we did see a rattlesnake, hummingbird. Bill saw 2 deers,